The most notable, I think, event for me in the past month was driving away from the garage after paying that emergency bill of paying for the brakes. And I was stressed because the car was making, grinding sounds, and I wasn't sure it was the brakes. I figured it was, but I wasn't 100% sure. I'm not a mechanic. There was a bunch of stress there. What was going to happen? What was wrong with the car? How much it was going to cost? Am I going to be able to afford to pay it? That kind of stuff. So that had all been building up. So I brought it in, and they came out and they told me how much it was going to be. And my emergency fund from baby step 1 was enough to cover that. Normally, in these situations, whenever there would be a large emergency like this where I need to make a payment of something that's $500 or more, I don't make enough money. I can't cash flow that kind of money. So that is a very stressful time for me. And I mean, I'm 36 now, so I've spent 15 years, being stressed when it comes to these types of financial happenings, right? They just happen. And they stressed me out to the point where I think my nervous system is used to being in shock and stress and triggered and whatnot when these things happen. To the point where I'll start freaking out, right? And I'll get strong anxiety and panicking and whatnot. So driving away from the garage where I had paid cash for this $700 emergency that I was not expecting, and not being out, I could still pay for all of my bills, all of my food, all of this, whatever I needed, but my budget in that regard wasn't impacted. And that was weird to have had an emergency come up that was $500 plus, like such a big one of $700 for me, a big one for me, and to not have used a credit card, to not have asked someone to loan me money or to just pay it, to not have, now I'm not going to be able to afford rent, or now I'm not going to be able to, buy food, whatever. It was so strange. It was so weird to have had that emergency fund cover it, and I was still okay. So when I was driving away from the garage, I felt confused. And not just like emotionally confused, I felt physically confused. My body didn't know what to do because my body is used to freaking out, like the stress. Okay, get the cortisol going, adrenaline, I'm shaking, I'm just like, that was my default setting when any type of money emergency would happen, because in my mind, or in my experience, it's a big deal, and it means that I'm not going to be able to eat, and it means that there's all these consequences. But because I had my emergency fund there were none of those consequences, so I was still safe. I didn't have the need to get the adrenaline going and whatnot because everything was still okay. And that was strange, and my body didn't know what to do, because it was strange, because I felt like I needed to have that boost of like adrenaline and panic and overwhelming emotion and crying and all that those hormonal reactions that you have to adrenaline's a hormone, so all of that stuff. So I was confused, and like I said, not just emotionally, but physically. I think my body just wasn't sure what to do at this point. So that was just a really interesting experience. I think it might have been the first time in my life, to be honest, now that I'm thinking about it and talking about it, I think that might have been the first time in my life where I have had an emergency come up financially, and I was okay, and I didn't freak out, and I wasn't, it was just very strange. It was a very strange experience, a good experience, and I look forward to continuing a trend of these experiences. But yeah, anyway, I thought it was a really interesting thing that I felt I wanted to share, in case, I don't know, it means, anyone else can relate to it. So yeah, it's been a really interesting couple months, and I look forward to continuing, because as difficult as it might be to just be on the hustle and make a budget and do all these things, it's so rewarding to feel or to know that when there's an emergency, like the cat emergencies or the car, like that I'm taken care of. It's okay. Like, and it's the person taking care of me is me. And that's unheard of in my psychology, in my narrative, in my invisible money scripts. That's unheard of. That's brand new. In my mind, I always thought that you need a man to do that for you. You need a man to cover these costs. A woman by herself can't cover a car cost, when they come up. So slowly learning that it is possible for me to be taking care of myself this way. And yeah, just exciting things. So anyway, I'll leave it there. Just a little bit of food for thought. And thanks for listening. And we'll see how September goes.